Cyclist, don't drop your buffs. Alright, if you didn't get that reference, that is of course from the reality TV show Survivor. Both Kristen and myself were pretty big fans of that show. But today we're not going to talk about the use of a buff in that kind of context while living on a nice tropical beach. We are going to be talking about the use of a buff for cycling purposes. So it's so easy to associate a buff with the winter time, where we can either wrap it around our necks for a bit of warmth or use it as some kind of a headgear to keep our heads warm during those cold winter rides. But a buff can be equally as useful in the summertime. Here in the Northern Hemisphere, temperatures are really starting to heat up, and that is why I wanted to share with you my top 5 reasons for why you should be keeping a cycling buff with you at all times, even now during this warmer summer months. Let's check it out. Alright, so reason number 1, this is going to be the most obvious one on my list right now. I don't think I need to restate why keeping a face mask with you at this time is a really good idea. So obviously all you need to do with a buff is simply wrap it around your head, and then you can just put it over your face and you've got a very nice handy face mask with you. Here in Northern Virginia, where we live currently, local state law dictates that we need to have some kind of a face covering each time we go into a building. So for me, this is super useful because on any of my rides, if I want to enter into a convenience store or a coffee shop or maybe a bike store along my ride, I will need to have a face mask. So reason number 1, simple, have your buff ready for a face covering. Alright, so reason number 2, and this is my personal favorite. Here in Northern Virginia, where we live, the summers can get really hot and humid, which means a lot of sweat. It's almost guaranteed during these summer months when you go out for a ride to be totally drenched in sweat. So this is where the buff also comes in really handy as a simple sweatband. So wrap it around your head and you have got the ability to now just tuck it in underneath your helmet, and you know you've got the buff with you. So since you need to keep it with you in any case, given reason number 1, I might as well wear it as a handy sweatband. If you don't like stuff around your head, obviously another way to also use it as a sweatband is to wrap it around your wrist and just keep it right there, and whenever you do get sweaty or hot, you can simply wipe down your brow using this one. So number 2, very handy sweatband to keep with you at all times. Reason number 3 to keep a buff with you during those hot summer months is as a nice refresher towel, actually, right after your rides. And this is why I actually like to carry a second clean one with me, or keep it handy at a car where you can then find it right after your ride. And if you then use it with a water bottle, for instance, it becomes a nice way for you to just quickly cool down after a hot summer ride. You've got a nice clean rag and you can just wash your face, maybe your arm and also your legs right after a ride, just refreshed, and you don't have to then drive home all sweaty and sticky in the car on the way back. So that's another way where you can use your buff in those hot summer temperatures. Reason number 4 to keep a buff with you during the summertime is for those emergency situations. We don't like to think about the possibility of crashing when we think of cycling, but unfortunately that is part of the reality, and it does happen from time to time. So if you do run into those emergency situations, the buff can be a super useful tool to have with you. You can obviously wrap it around a wound to protect that wound and just prevent any sort of further infection in that spot. And then another use for this cycling buff is actually if the crash is of such a nature that you might have injured an arm, broken or dislocated a shoulder, then this is where the buff and a second buff can actually make your life a lot easier. And that's why I like to keep a second clean buff in my pocket just in case. So the way this works is you're going to use the one buff, and that's going to essentially be your arm sling that your arm can rest in. But then what you need is a second buff. And so what you'll do is simply take the first one, then scrunch up the second one like so. Pull it through the first one like this, and then just tie it into itself. So by tying this one over there, and then what you basically have is by wrapping this first one around your neck, you have got now a second one to rest your arm in, and that could just be a very useful sling that in those emergent situations can help you to get to that next checkpoint where you can then seek further medical advice. So very handy for those emergency situations as well. Alright, so if those first 4 reasons weren't good enough, we have got one more. Fifth and final one on my list is to use it as a bit of storage while you're on your bike. So if you have it with you, you might as well use it in a very handy way. So the way you're going to do this is simply wrapping the buff around your wrist as you would for that sweat protection that I mentioned earlier. But then what you can do is pull this buff up higher on your arm, and now because of that double layer of that wrapped buff, you essentially have a little bit of a sleeve where you can put stuff in. So storage for maybe something like your energy bars. So if you do want to clear up some of the storage in your back pocket, maybe something like an energy bar can now very easily be tucked into that little pocket that you've created with your buff. This is also a handy way to keep it close by. So if you don't want to tuck into your pocket all the time and go digging for those energy bars and gels that you've got stuck in there, then keeping it on your upper arm is maybe a much more convenient spot to then reach over, grab it, and then have it handy whenever you need those snacks in quick access. All right, so there you have it. Face mask, sweatband, sweat towel, emergency care, and also some additional food storage. This little piece of cloth can do it all. It's such a small and lightweight piece of gear. It really doesn't take much to shove this into your back pocket and keep it with you just in case on those hot, humid summer days. I do hope you liked this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and do subscribe to this channel. Plenty more mountain road ride content to come in the future. That's it from my side. I'm Vian. Until next time, enjoy your ride.